I'm going to do receivers. I don't know. I don't want to get any trouble on betting for stuff. That's for the other half of the state, but just receivers is where I'm going to go.
Something that we've been putting off for quite some time. Because we knew a lot of things were going to start rolling, right? Or at least we had an idea that the transfer portal for the spring football especially had already closed and opened in a sense. Closed in the sense people could enter it, but also had opened up for people who had already entered to start visiting Auburn, to start considering whether they wanted to be here or not. So a lot of people have been asking us to give our thoughts on that, and that's kind of why we've been holding off on the Auburn Experience Show. We've been talking about it on our other live streams and things like that, but here, this is our take on it. So let me open us up with this to give you, at least for football, a quick picture of just the spring portion of it. So this is everybody who has left and now entered into being part of the Auburn football team. Tavares Dawson, wide receiver, has left and since gone to Colorado. Jeffrey Emba left and gone to Purdue. Desmond Tisdale, still undecided, has left Auburn, though. Powell Gordon is still not decided. He's got a few people he's thinking about, according to this website, but has left Auburn. And also, you've got Craig McDonald, who has gone to Minnesota. I'm going to butcher his name, so I apologize. Tobechi Okole, I think is how you say it. Undecided, has left Auburn. And a big surprise, honestly, for me, Dylan Brooks, edge rusher, left Auburn, has not decided somewhere to go as of this show. And then Landon King has also, wide receiver, decided to go into the portal, has not decided yet. But the big one, and maybe let's start here before we talk about who has come to Auburn. TJ Finley has left Auburn, but he will leave, provided he follows through with what he said he was going to do, as a graduate. So to me, if you're going to leave Auburn, this is the way you do it. And this is not a statement for or against him as a good option at quarterback. I just love when guys, if you have to leave, if you need to take an opportunity to do something better for yourself, or you feel it's the better choice, leave as a graduate. If you can, that's like the ideal scenario for me. So I don't know about you, how you feel about it, but for me, Austin, I'm super proud that he leaves with that. Will leave this summer with that Auburn diploma in hand.
Yeah, no, good for him. And, this being graduation weekend, I don't know what his degree was in, and I don't know when he would presumably walk for graduation, but sounds like that is his plan. And I think that is probably the easiest way for him to be able to play somewhere else next year. So good for him. And all those who graduated from, student athletes this weekend, whether they're heading out or staying another year at Auburn or entering the workforce. So, good for him. And I think anytime you can get a degree from Auburn, I know you and I are relatively close to Auburn. But the Auburn University degree holds a lot of weight in a lot of places around this country and around this world. So good for him to have that in hand. And good for him to be able to say he has that forever.
And you act like you aren't within the backyard of Auburn. Like you say, we're fairly close to Auburn. Like you're not in the
nice.
Yeah, I appreciate you softening the blow to remind me continuously that I'm far enough away where I can make the trip if I want to on this weekend, but it's still quite a haul just for a short moment. So thank you for continuing to jab that in there, even subtly.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Continuing on the portal discussion here, I did mention Colby Smith, offensive lineman, also into the portal, not decided yet. So that is everybody from the spring. Don't forget that there's been people since that point, before that point, who have already gone in and gone somewhere else. And there's probably people after this discussion that will be part of that equation too, at least in terms of where they're going to end up going outside of Auburn. But now let's talk about the good stuff, what we've all been waiting on. The big decisions, people deciding to come be at Auburn. And within 1 week, Austin, not one, not two, but three decide to come be part of this team. And let's just say this, two of them from Power 5 programs, two of them which were from pretty decent programs too. At least, they're usually in the hunt somewhere in the top 25, one in particular. But first, defensive end, edge, linebacker, whatever you want to categorize him as, Jalen McLeod comes to Auburn. Quarterback from Michigan State, almost at Eastern Michigan for some reason, I guess because they're both green. Michigan State, Payton Thorne, and wide receiver from Ohio State, Caleb Burton. We've got videos out here on the channel if you want some breakdown information about that. But Austin, I will open the floor for you first. Your thoughts on your 3 new additions to the Auburn football team so far?
Yeah, how about that? Definitely all 3 different positions, all 3 positions of need that this coaching staff has said we need to add people at these positions for competition's sake, to help us immediately, all the things. So check. Really great for each of those guys to be joining Auburn. Each of them, I think, will be able to contribute, whether it's immediately or in the future. The big one, obviously, is Payton Thorne. Payton Thorne, a 2-year starter at Michigan State, and has 2 years of eligibility left. A very experienced quarterback in a Power 5 conference, has played in big games, big stadiums, on the big-time stages. So when Payton Thorne entered the portal, it seemed like everybody kind of knew something like, okay, this is someone that Coach Freeze and the staff has been waiting on to see if they're going to hop in. Everyone kind of laughed because another option, presumed to be Casey Thompson, he entered right around the same time, and it was right after the soundbite on the ambush tour, Coach Freeze saying maybe there's someone else popping in a day or two. Sounds like these guys kind of know what they're doing. Let's just remember that every now and then.
Just a little bit.
So Payton Thorne seems to be the guy that staff has a lot of hope in, might be able to come in and either push Robbie Ashford or Holden Geriner or to win the job outright. And so I think a lot of people are expecting him to go ahead and win the job, given his experience and his accolades of his own. I think it's definitely going to be a competition to watch. And, Robbie Ashford's, one of his first public comments was iron sharpens iron. So he's ready to compete as well. That should make everybody happy, because the more competition, the better. If it does end up being Payton Thorne, then he's been pushed by Robbie Ashford. If it does end up being Robbie Ashford, regardless of what your opinion is right now, that means he won the job. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Burton. I think he's, didn't get to play a lot last year during his freshman season, but, has a lot of ability and is going to be at Auburn for the next 4 years, max. So that's a position that Auburn desperately needs some help. And then Jalen McLeod, an edge rusher, we need somebody to get to the quarterback and stop the run. So I'm excited about all 3 of those additions. I think they're all going to help us, and it sounds like there might be some more on the way too in those positions and others. So a great week for the portal and for Auburn football.
Yeah, I love everything that you said there, and I love that you brought up that Robbie first comments that he made, obviously clearly in relation to the news, because it was minutes after that. It's iron sharpens iron, and that is exactly what I wanted to see out of Robbie. No matter how this shakes out, it's no secret. Robbie was kind of, at least publicly, perception-wise, in some people's minds, the second choice in quarterback since he got here, until he earned it during the season and, showed a lot of talent and promise. Still rough edges, but who doesn't still have rough edges in anything, sports and otherwise, and can always get better. But TJ's gone, so you got to fill the role. The question is, do you just find a space filler, or do you find someone that can come in and make everybody else better? And Payton Thorne, I think, is going to be able to do that. Now, look, we're not going to sit here and mince words and act like if you were not advocating for gambling or anything like that, but if you do that sort of thing, you probably put money on Payton Thorne being the starter. It's not a given, though. And even if that's the case, you're going to tell me Hugh Freeze doesn't see that athlete in Robbie Ashford sitting on the sideline and keep him there? That's stupid. He's going to utilize him some way, still as a quarterback, I'm sure, and could still be the future, even if that scenario plays out that way. So I feel much better about the quarterback situation. I also feel much better, as you said, about the edge rusher position, because you lost Colby Wooden, you lost Derek Hall, you lost Dylan Brooks, who was going to be the future there. We just talked about that in the losses in the portal. And this guy, he's only going to be here. I think he's got 1 year technically, but could use a COVID year if he wanted to.
I can't keep up. I'm ready for the COVID years to go. I mean, we got guys playing 7-8 years in college, and it's normal. I'm over it.
Listen, I think with Caleb Burton to kind of tie him in here too. I think he would not be eligible for this COVID year. I think we're close
thank goodness,
to getting out of that window where everybody who was here got a COVID year. Look, do I love being able to keep people, especially ones that we really need, around for an extra year than we normally would? Sure. But when you do this stuff, you talk about these things, it's hard to keep track of all this thing. Cause then you're like, he's got this much eligibility. I'm like, you keep track of it all. Like it's tough. It's tough. So yeah, that's my gripe for today. That's what grinds my gears, is having to keep track of eligibility in the COVID year era. But having Jalen McLeod come in and obviously provide depth, but going to play and then build up the future, give those guys that have just come in at the edge position to build up time. And then you've got a guy in wide receiver who can likely be here if he chooses to be so for a while and maybe become a starter. He was highly regarded during the recruiting process. So if you want to talk about patience paying off, talked a lot about it at the start of the show with softball and, you know, what we're seeing them build to over several seasons. Talk about patience on the portal getting started for Auburn football. I think it's paid off and is still going to continue to pay off in some other areas too. Maybe some related areas we've already talked about, not quarterback. I think we're done. But it's a good start to the transfer portal. Thus why we waited to talk about it, because we wanted to be able to talk about the greatness all in one big swoop. So if I had to get one prediction from you, sir, for kind of last thoughts here, what's the next position to commit from the transfer portal to Auburn football?
I think you're going to see a couple more receivers coming through here. I think a couple are going to keep coming. I think that's a position Auburn needs some depth at. And some guys who do some different kind of things. So, and I mean, like you mentioned in the losses, Landon King and Tafarish Dawson have left. That's two spots that you've already lost receivers anyway, whether you're looking for depth or for starters. So, I think my guess would be receivers. I'm not gonna bet on anything. That seems to be a poor choice to do around here these days. But I'm just gonna do receivers. I don't want to get any trouble on betting for stuff. That's for the other half of the state, but just receivers is where I'm going to go.